And so, as we think about ministry training, and Josh, I want you to join in here now at this point, and as you think about what a minister needs to be equipped for the work of ministry, what does that person need? Or someone says, "I want to be a preacher." A young man comes and says, "I want to be a preacher." What does he need in order to be equipped for that? And Josh, why don't you share a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, the top three things, to sum it up in very simple words, would be knowledge, skills, and experience. And if you have those three things, you have a good chance of succeeding in ministry. There is more to it than that, but that's a really good start, which means that the student who hears those words understands that he's going to have to learn things and he's going to have to do things and he's going to have to excel at things to succeed in ministry.
Right, right. So that's a great way to explain that. I think too. I would agree with that for sure. That you think of, and then if we could break that down even a little bit farther, knowledge that someone needs is there's a lot of knowledge that's best learned in what we could call in a class or a classroom setting that's important. So we all think of school that we go to, with the school that we've been to in our lives, whether it's a grade school, high school, or college, or whatever it is. There are things that you learn in class, knowledge that you obtain that's really just best learned in a classroom setting. But not all knowledge is best that or not all knowledge that you need is best learned that way. For example, there are skills that are best learned that are just on the job. And so if we could think in terms of ministry, knowledge that's needed is Bible knowledge, theology knowledge, and related subjects. But then skills that are needed would be like the practical things. Like what would you think of are skills that a minister would need if you would describe that, Josh?
Well, I would say the number one skill you need is people skills. When it comes to ministry, it is a people oriented work. A lot of preachers and even a lot of people think that being a preacher means you preach. Well, here's the deal. That's the cherry on top of the ice cream sundae. If you're a good preacher, preaching is about 10% of what you do. It's your love of the people, your teaching and equipping of your people that's really going to determine your success in the ministry.
Yeah. I remember once many years ago now, somebody a preacher that I respected, he's a friend of mine, just said talked in terms of just loving people, and I've thought about that many times over the years that so much of what ministry is really is that. It's loving people and it requires people skills. And as we think of this kind of specific skills, you think of or specific things that a preacher needs to be able to do. I mean, obviously the skill of preaching, which you mentioned, that's just a part of what a preacher does, but being able to go see people in the hospital and know how to conduct yourself there, that's important. Or being able to visit somebody in his or her home, and how do you conduct yourself there? I think, another so that's one segment of people skills, but we also might think of, or at least I do, is how do you prepare for a meeting with leadership of the church? Like if you have something and if you have something to present, how do you prepare for that? And how do you conduct yourself in a situation like that? That also requires people skills that are very important. And I guess I think about this, those are things that you can talk about them in a classroom setting, but they're really best just learned by being on the job and following somebody.
Well, I would say it's not just a matter of it's the best way to learn it. I would almost argue it's the only way to learn it.
Yeah.
There are some things that the classroom is not suited to, and I think we need to be willing to say that.